Hello and welcome to Mavzone Dentistry. Today we will be discussing the common pathologies associated with pulp and discuss about how to diagnose these conditions. For today's topic, we will be covering the following: a brief overview of the different pulpal pathologies, then we will try to understand how the pulp is usually affected. This will be followed by the various diagnostic terms currently accepted. Finally, a brief knowledge of the treatment of pulpally affected tooth. Any pathology affecting the pulp will give rise to inflammatory changes within the pulpal tissue, and hence there will be some form of pulpitis. Basically, based on the duration of the inflammatory reaction, these can be categorized as acute or chronic pulpitis. Based on the severity, these can be further subclassified into reversible and irreversible pulpitis. Chronic pulpitis are generally irreversible. A low-grade infection gives rise to a hyperplastic pulpitis as seen in pulp polyp. Acute lesions of increased severity can result in formation of an abscess, which would end up with necrosis of the pulpal tissue. On rare instances, we may encounter calcification within the pulp, or there may be internal resorption of the pulp chamber. Now, let us discuss what actually causes this inflammatory reaction in the pulp tissue. The most common and obvious cause of pulpitis is a bacterial infection, that is, through dental caries. The caries process that begins from the enamel reaches the pulp tissue if untreated and results in pulpitis. Other causes include trauma that might result in irritation of pulp, leaching of unpolymerized resins, and thermal injury to the pulp as a result of improperly restored tooth. Iatrogenic pulp exposure during cavity preparation may lead to transient, reversible form of pulpitis. Finally, changes in atmospheric pressure may result in inflammatory reaction of the pulp. Let us first discuss how caries can affect the pulp tissue. An understanding of the sequelae of dental caries is very important in this context. A tooth is covered by a dense enamel coating on the crown, within which is a thick layer of dentine which protects the pulp. However, in case of the root, there is only dentine and a thin layer of cementum covering the pulp tissue. Dental caries always begins on the surface of enamel and progresses inwards. Whether it is from the pit and fissure or smooth surface caries, the lesion progresses inwards. We should remember here that the caries follows the direction of the enamel rods and forms a triangular shaped lesion within the enamel. The orientation of this lesion varies between pit and fissure caries and smooth surface caries. The apex of the triangular lesion is towards the outer surface in case of pit and fissure caries, but in case of smooth surface caries, the base is facing outwards. Once the carious lesion reaches the dentino-enamel junction, it spreads laterally and gains entry into the dentinal tubules. The rate of progression of caries becomes faster once it reaches the dentine. The bacteria and the inflammatory components gain access into the pulpal tissue if left untreated. It should be remembered that until this happens, the tooth is asymptomatic and it can be treated by simple restoration. Once the caries reaches the pulp, it leads to spread of inflammation throughout the loose pulp tissue. This process is never restricted to a confined area within the pulp, and hence it requires extensive treatment. The inflammation within the pulp may be rapid and of short duration, or longer and low grade, but is mostly irreversible. Reversible pulpitis is not commonly encountered and may be due to a very low grade caries or exposure of dentine. In most of the cases, the patient would not have sought dental treatment for this, and hence cases of irreversible pulpitis are commonly encountered in the dental clinic. The pulpal inflammation may lead to abscess formation and subsequently necrosis of the pulp, depending on its severity, or may become subsided secondary to antibiotic prophylaxis. However, treatment is not complete until the foci of infection is completely removed. The bacteria as well as the inflammatory component may gain access into the periapical area through the apical foramen and give rise to periapical infections. This aspect has been well explained under the sequelae of pulpitis. So now we are able to understand how the pulp is affected due to caries and other causes. In part 2 of this topic, I will be discussing the 7 diagnostic terminologies given for pulpal conditions, and how to diagnose them. Stay tuned until then. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and see you soon.